Wendy Williams never imagined that a simple conversation about going to the Oscars would become a symbol of everything she had lost. The way she joked about outfits, the way she stood there explaining she could only feel a fraction of her own feet, the way she told the interviewer she felt better than you, even through all the pain. It all felt lighthearted on the surface. But behind that moment was a truth so disturbing that people still struggle to believe it actually happened. The woman who once dominated daytime television with her honesty, confidence, and fearlessness had been pushed into a legal and medical nightmare that took years from her life and nearly destroyed everything that made her who she was. For years, the world was told that Wendy had frontotemporal dementia. That diagnosis wasn't just a medical note. It was the foundation of a system that took away her voice, her career, her money, and her access to her own family. A diagnosis that severe would normally lead to declining speech, memory loss, and significant behavioral shifts. Yet while the public was told she was fading, Wendy herself kept insisting she was fine. She said the diagnosis didn't make sense. She said something was wrong. And almost nobody listened. Everything changed when a respected neurologist stepped in and performed independent testing. The results shocked even those who had followed her case from the beginning. According to TMZ's report, Wendy showed no signs of the condition she had been treated for. The exact diagnosis that had been used to justify locking down her life appeared to have been false. Not a misunderstanding. Not a miscommunication. Something that might have been constructed and pushed forward with purpose. It raises a terrifying question. If someone as famous and wealthy as Wendy Williams can be labeled with a condition she never had, what chance does anyone else have? Her nightmare started when Wells Fargo claimed she was incapable of handling her own finances. With that single declaration, the court appointed a guardian who was given near complete authority over her money, her medical treatments, her communications, and even her daily schedule. Overnight, Wendy went from a lively talk show host to a woman whose phone calls were screened, whose visits were restricted, and whose independence was cut off with no warning. Her show was canceled. Her business relationships ended. Her home life fell apart. Everything she built over decades crumbled under a label she didn't believe applied to her at all. Her family felt the collapse immediately. Wendy's son, Kevin Jr., said visitation was blocked. Calls didn't go through. Decisions were made without family input. He asked questions that nobody would answer. He saw his mother getting treatment for conditions that didn't match her real behavior. And he openly questioned one of the strangest details of all. If doctors claimed her condition was linked to alcohol, why did the people in charge of her well-being allow her to keep drinking? His concern only grew when she started getting moved between facilities, sometimes without clear explanations. While this was happening, Wendy kept trying to prove she was healthy. She asked for independent evaluations. She asked to be tested again. She asked for clarity. Each time she tried to speak up, her words were overshadowed by legal documents, medical notes, and court restrictions. To the outside world, she was simply declining. But those who saw her closely noticed something unusual. Her condition wasn't getting worse. In fact, she seemed mentally clearer than before. Her memory was strong. Her speech was sharp. She could walk, talk, recognize people, and recall details with no signs of the deterioration typical of severe neurological conditions. Everything about her behavior contradicted the diagnosis she had been given. The story only becomes darker when you look at Wendy's past. Her entire career was built on saying things people were too afraid to say. In radio, she talked about controversies involving celebrities long before social media made it fashionable. One of her most infamous clashes involved Diddy. Wendy discussed photos that were said to show him in a questionable situation during a trip to Mexico. Whether the photos were real or not didn't matter. The moment she said his name on air, her career shifted permanently. According to insiders, her firing from Hot 97 wasn't random at all. And it didn't stop there. Wendy later claimed that Diddy even threatened her teenage son, turning a professional feud into something frighteningly personal. Her honesty, while loved by fans, made her a threat to some of the most powerful people in the entertainment industry. She talked about issues others avoided. She questioned companies, artists, executives, and decision-makers. She revealed stories that people desperately wanted to stay buried, and over time, she didn't just create fans, she created enemies. People who watched her rise, waited for her to slip, and had the influence to make life very difficult for someone who wouldn't stay quiet. Nicki Minaj saw what was happening and said something that most people ignored at the time. Nicki warned that Wendy's situation wasn't unique and suggested that other celebrities, especially outspoken ones, could face similar treatment. She even hinted that powerful groups, including majors like Roc Nation, had the ability to influence legal and medical narratives around certain public figures. She said that single or divorced celebrities were the easiest to target because they didn't have a spouse with legal standing to protect their rights. And Wendy was divorced by the time her guardianship began. Nicki added that her own husband, Kenneth Petty, helped protect her from becoming a victim of the same system. She said this publicly. People thought she was exaggerating. But now that Wendy's diagnosis has been exposed as false, Nicki's warning feels less like speculation and more like a truth people didn't want to face. Wendy's case is far from the only example of a celebrity being stripped of their autonomy. Britney Spears spent more than a decade locked inside a conservatorship that controlled her every move. Kanye West, after a series of public breakdowns, faced widespread speculation that he could lose access to his own finances. Even Michael Jackson had long, complicated battles over who managed his money and who influenced his decisions. Each of these stories reveals a disturbing pattern. People with fame and money can still be placed under systems that take away their rights with almost no accountability. Wendy's life followed that same pattern for years. She was told when to wake up, when to eat, when to rest, and when to take treatments she didn't believe she needed. She moved through her own life like a visitor, guided by people she didn't choose. Her family was left powerless, confused, and frustrated. Her fans watched the chaos unfold with no clear answers, and through it all, Wendy kept insisting she was fine, insisting that something wasn't right, insisting that she was still capable of making her own decisions. Independent medical tests finally proved she was telling the truth the entire time. Now, her legal team is pushing harder than ever. Attorney Joe Tacopina has already stated that if the judge refuses to end the guardianship, he will demand a jury trial. That would pull everything into the public eye. Private records, hidden decisions, questionable diagnoses, and the people who played roles behind the scenes. It would be the first time ordinary citizens, not a single judge, decide what truly happened to Wendy Williams. Behind the legal fight is a deeper story about power. How does a bank as massive as Wells Fargo get to decide that a celebrity is unfit? How do doctors diagnose a condition as severe as frontotemporal dementia without evidence? How can a guardian cut off family members without explanation? And who benefits financially when a celebrity is placed under someone else's control? These are the questions people are asking now, not because they're curious, but because the system has shown cracks that can't be ignored. Wendy's case is exposing more than personal injustice. It's exposing how easily legal and medical structures can be manipulated. Her son played a huge part in bringing the truth forward. Kevin Jr. didn't stay silent. He questioned everything: the treatments, the restrictions, the contradictions, the decisions that didn't add up. He saw his mother being moved around and kept away from people who actually cared about her. He saw a diagnosis that didn't match reality, and he decided to speak publicly about the details that others were too afraid to mention. Now fans are watching closely. Some are angry. Some are scared. Many are wondering how much of this story has yet to be told. If Wendy was misdiagnosed, who approved the diagnosis? If she was placed under guardianship without evidence, who benefited financially? If her family was pushed away, who made those decisions? And how many more celebrities are vulnerable to the same system? Nicki Minaj's warning rings louder than ever. She said Wendy wasn't the only one. She said others could be targeted just as easily. She said the entertainment industry knows how to silence people who don't fall in line. And looking at Wendy now, standing on her own, speaking clearly, fighting back after years of being ignored, it's clear that the truth is bigger than one person's story. Wendy is close to reclaiming her life. The new neurological tests are undeniable. Her lawyers are prepared. The world is paying attention, and the people who once controlled her life may soon have to face uncomfortable questions in a courtroom. Still, the biggest question remains. If this can happen to Wendy Williams, who else might be at risk? How deep does this problem run? How many stories stay hidden behind polite statements, legal documents, and carefully crafted public narratives? Wendy's fight is about more than freedom. It's about exposing a system that has gone unchecked for too long. It's about shining a light on the way power can be twisted. It's about protecting others from going through the same thing. She built a career on speaking the truth. Now, after everything that has been done to her, she may finally have the chance to speak her truth again, loudly, publicly, and without anyone controlling her voice. Let us know what you think. Will Wendy finally break free? And do you believe Nicki Minaj is right about how deep this problem goes? Stay tuned, because this story is far from over.